Hello and welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. Today we'll further on the last lecture where we left the news. So we'll start from the next news, which is government plans long-term exemption for green hydrogen projects. In the second last lecture, we talked about India and our neighbors. So in that, we saw how China is being an overall threat for the prosperity and economic advancement of India. All right. In this lecture, we'll see a contrasting perspective how, let's say, China is being a supplier of many things and how India is rather compelled to take help of it. So let's see the perspective here very quickly. So Ministry of New and Renewable Energy MNRE, and this is both in view of COP28 as well as India's net zero goals. So if one, let's say, major factor of net zero goals for India is development of renewable energy. And major thing from renewable energy is again solar energy. And I explained to you in one of the lectures that in order to create a reliable amount of solar energy, our installed capacity must be 2 to 3 times higher than what we need because of the unreliability of the sun. Alright, so what we need here is solar panels plus green hydrogen development. Now what's the news here? So Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, a key player in the Indian government's decarbonization goals, has proposed an exemption for green hydrogen developers from adhering to its list of authorized manufacturers to enable them to import solar PV modules and wind turbine modules from China. Alright, so what you want to say here is that they can purchase solar and wind PV modules from China for now at least. So MNRE has also proposed an exemption on duties and taxes up to 2035 on equipment imports for setting up export-oriented green hydrogen projects. Export-oriented means that we can even export what green hydrogen we are making. So how is green hydrogen produced? Essentially, hydrogen is a part of H2, and upon the breakdown of H2O, we can produce H2 plus O2. So this will be green hydrogen. Now this breakdown will take some energy. This energy comes from electricity, and this electricity is produced if by a renewable source, let's say wind or solar, then it will be green hydrogen. And we are basically saying that these wind and solar modules can be purchased from China for now. So during the meeting, developers also sought an exemption from a Ministry of Finance order dated whatever that had barred public procurement of equipment from countries sharing land border with India, a move aimed at China. So here we are seeing the very opposite perspective of what we initially saw. Alright, so ALMM, that is approved list of models and manufacturers adherence requirement, has been temporarily kept in abeyance. Abeyance means basically a hell, ignored hell, for the current fiscal year in an effort to increase solar capacity, as domestic manufacturing of solar PV module has not kept up with the demand. So we'll also have to see the reason for this, that why it is not catching up to the demand. So in other words, solar energy projects commissioned by March 31, 2024 are exempt from the requirement of procuring solar PV modules from approved manufacturers. Also, green hydrogen developers have sought for a long-term exemption as opposed to the year-long exemption currently in place. So of course, India will have to, let's increase it year by year. India cannot just say that, okay, we are incapable till the next decade. All right, and you can just go outright purchase from China. No, we'll have to focus on ourselves also, and the good time duration for this is yearly. So this is one of the perspective. The exemption will allow companies to import renewable energy equipment at competitive prices and enable central PSUs like Indian Oil Corporation Limited and NTPC, which have announced green hydrogen products, to procure equipment manufactured in China. Alright, so this can serve as an example how China is helping us, or we are having to depend upon China for some things which we cannot produce ourselves right now at the capacity that we need. So this I have already explained to you that energy companies are doubling down on mass producing green hydrogen, for which renewable energy equipment and electrolytes are a key. Even as imports of Chinese solar PV modules to India fell by 76% during the first half compared to the first half of 2022, they continue to be cheaper than made in India right now. So mass production is the thing here. That we can still produce them, but we do not have the infra to mass produce them right now and provide them at cheaper price than China. So to meet its green hydrogen targets by 2030, India needs to add an additional renewable energy capacity of 125 gigawatts. That is nearly 3/4 of its current total capacity of 179 gigawatt. So as per industrial sources, importing solar PV modules from China will help with supply and making Indian exports of green hydrogen competitive at the global level. So if there is lesser input cost, just a second. So let's say if there is lesser input cost, then we will be able to produce green hydrogen at, even if we are selling at lesser price or lesser output cost, then there will still be profit. Or even the prices will be competitive with the rest of the world. So is China doing this with all the countries, let's say? So China leads with 40% of the global manufacturing capacity for electrolyzers, while India plans to install 60 gigawatt of electrolysis capacity to meet its 2030 target of producing 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen. The domestic industry is still in nascent stage. Nascent means new. Now there is another program known as SITE. So what is the SITE program? SITE program is Strategic Interventions for Green Hydrogen. So this is a green hydrogen plan. This was very much in news during 2022 and was also asked in interviews, as you can see on interview transcripts. Alright, so there is a PLI scheme for boosting domestic manufacturing of the green hydrogen and especially the electrolyzers. Alright, so it's the program by MNRE, and it's basically PLI program for 4,400 crore rupees. Alright, just a second. So, however, it could be years before India reaches some degree of self-sufficiency in electrolyzer manufacturing capacity. In this context, supply of made-in-China electrolyzers could be key to green hydrogen ambition of central PSU like Indian Oil and NTPC. Furthermore, the government's attempt to reduce dependence on Chinese imports through tariff and non-tariff measures and by restricting participation of Chinese vendors in public procurement stem from both security concerns and the need to boost domestic manufacturing. So, what we see here that India is right now, let's say, compelled to do things via China. On a large scale, it's trying to avoid China. On one hand, by increasing tariffs and restricting participation of China in event public procurements, etc. On the other hand, it has to take things from China so as to keep the input costs low and being able to mass produce green hydrogen in the near future for, and also making it an export oriented service. So following the Galwan Valley skirmish in 2020, the Indian government issued orders to clamp down on participation of Chinese vendors in public procurement. Recently, the Indian procurement portal GM announced the removal of 100 of Chinese vendors over the past 3 years. Alright, let's see the next news, which is Switzerland and Norway ministers arriving for dialogue on trade. So where they are coming? They are coming to Delhi. Alright, from Switzerland and Norway. So officials say they remain optimistic of reaching an agreement on trade pact with Nordic countries. So we'll see which are the Nordic countries via mapping. in the next few months through though several outstanding issues remain, and Indian trade negotiations are being trying to close free trade agreement with the UK and Australia. So talks about the Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, that is TEPA, and a bilateral investment treaty BIT between India and the four European countries which make up the European Free Trade Association, that is EFTA. Outside the European Union, their Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland began 15 years ago. And despite 20 rounds of negotiations, they have not yet been closed, with attempts to sign an agreement before the general election due to India in early 2024. So, what we are essentially saying here that we need to have free trade agreements all across the world, whether it's Australia here, whether it's Europe here, whether it's the Nordic countries towards the Arctic Sea. All right, so India has to have an outreach here, and a new news is also that India is signing pacts with Oman also. All right, because we are losing some grip here in this area, whether it's Maldives or Pakistan or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or Nepal and Bhutan and China. All right, but we have to have develop our links further away. So see beyond India basically. So the four nation grouping has already signed 3 FTA with other countries and has ongoing negotiations with India, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Kosovo, and the South American Mercosur. The India UK FTA talks, which were earlier meant to be completed by Deepavali this year, they are still not ready for signing. Alright, but they are, let's say, under good talks at this point, the India UK FTA. And after the Brexit deal, UK is having a hard time negotiating these deals with other countries. So that can be a reason. So there are issues resolved, let's say they are being resolved. Issues on tariff, rules of origin, and market access for the UK legal and financial services firms to India. So India EU talk over the comprehensive bilateral trade and investment agreement BTIA. Please remember this BTIA. This can be asked directly that India is having this pact BTIA with which of the following things or countries or organizations. So they are also moving slowly through the EU Commissioner for Agriculture has led a delegation to Delhi last week. He was hopeful an agreement in 2024. Just a second. All right. So what's important from here? This Mercosur, this BTIA, all right, and other some name of some agreements and with which countries they are being signed. Okay. Lastly, despite signing an early harvest agreement more than a year ago, so early harvest agreement is a precursor to the free trade agreement. So this has been signed between India and Australia. All right. So FTA will be basically CECA, Comprehensive Economic and Commercial Agreement. So it has not been signed till yet. And UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is due to bilateral visit to India and Australia Prime Minister Anthony Albanese due to travel for India for the CUET Summit in 2024. So the CUET Summit is also again in news. This will be in India. So officials say they are trying to complete the agreement before the visits are finalized. Alright, so we'll be having a good outlook for many countries. Now what we can learn from here overall is that India is expanding its economic reach. Alright, so what becomes important for us to see is that which countries India has pulled back economically from and which countries is India expanding towards where. Alright, whether it's, let's say, it's UPI approach, whether it is a Chinese solar market approach, whether it is FTA agreements. So you need to make an economic outreach map of India in a single page you can make and name the countries and agreements with them. All right, let's now see the mapping portion. Okay, so this is the Norwegian Sea, this is Greenland Sea, Barents Sea. So these are all parts of the Arctic Sea or Arctic Ocean here. This is the Atlantic Ocean downside, down from towards UK. And these small sea can be called part of Arctic Ocean. Alright, this is Russia here, expanding further north towards the Arctic and the North Sea. And these are the Nordic countries, which are the Finland, there is Sweden, there's Norway, and there's Denmark. All right, these are the four Nordic countries. Then there are further countries such as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Belarus. There are some issues between Poland and Belarus, which you can read about. Then there's Germany, and there's UK here and Ireland here. UK and Ireland have many issues due to their history. The Ireland is also divided into two parts, the northern and the southern Ireland. So you can read about the UK Ireland issue also, especially in light of the Brexit. Then there is again the Faroe Islands, and this is Iceland here. All right, so all these things you can check up when you see the mapping portion, and these small things you remember that Barents Sea is where. All right, so this name can come up in the mapping portion in the exam. Okay, the more we see a better map here. We already saw this Russia here, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, Iceland here. All right, UK and Ireland here. This is divided into two parts. This is Northern Ireland, a part of the UK. This is Southern Ireland, as I told you already. All right, this is Germany, Denmark, Poland, Belarus. All right, Lithuania, Latvia. This is Ukraine here. There are many issues going on between the Ukraine and Russia. What I'm suggesting you is to keep seeing the map. Let's even every day. And monthly or even weekly, whenever you see a news here, then you can just earmark on the map as a form of current affairs that, okay, this happened here. All right, this happened here. So whether there is any Donetsk river here which we need to mark up, you can just mark via map directly. Okay, the other countries, we'll see this. This is basically Europe. We are covering the Europe portion here. So an easy way to remember Europe. Already we saw this in the last map I told you about the Italy, the various seas here, whether it's the Aegean Sea, this here, whether it's the Adriatic Sea here. All right, so what we saw in the Cyprus region we saw, and the Croatian region we saw here, that a sea mollusk is coming back to life. All right, so an easy way to remember Europe, you can see, start from here. Here we saw the Strait of Gibraltar, Algeria, etc., Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt. So all these countries are there. Then an easy way to remember Europe is you can learn from here directly. Portugal and Spain are connected to each other. And they further go north to the France, then to Germany, then to Poland. And as we always remember, Poland and Belarus as well as Ukraine. And after Ukraine, you can just know Russia is there. All right, so this is the northern line of the Europe, you can say. The UK and Ireland, we always remember. The English Channel is here between the UK and France. All right, France is connected to Germany. There are two small countries here, that is Netherlands and Belgium, between the Germany and France. I'll just make them for you here. All right. When we go a little bit south, so there is one country here, Switzerland, connected to France again. And there are some small Baltic regions, which are, let's say, Austria, Hungary. So Austria, Hungary, you remember in the World War. Okay, the World War started from here. Then there is Czech Republic, Slovenia. There's Romania here. All right, on Moldova. This is again very much involved in the Ukraine war. So you can remember from here. Romania, then there is Bulgaria. And there is a small group of countries here, which are Slovenia, Croatia. Croatia, I told you in the last lecture about that mollusk. And there is Bosnia, Serbia. Serbia is very famous. All right, you do not have to remember these countries. Questions never come from these countries, this region, especially. Just a second. So questions often don't come from this region. Mostly they are from this region, especially about the mountains and any rivers, etc., flowing from here, such as the Black Forest here in Germany. Okay, there is some great rivers flowing from here, this side. So there are other countries such as Greece, Turkey. So questions can come from this side, Ionian, where is Ionian Sea, where is Adriatic, where is Aegean Sea, okay, where is Tyrrhenian Sea. So these are all part of the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, this is Strait of Dharmidala, then there is Black Sea, and furthermore the Caspian Sea. So you can check all those things. Okay, lastly, we'll see Mahua Moitra's expulsion is against basic legal principles and the constitution. So this in detail we'll see in next lecture, but just the basics we'll cover here in this news, in this lecture. So Mahua Moitra was expelled from the Lok Sabha over the cash for query charges. So what is cash for question? That sharing MP portal login with somebody else and taking cash for asking specific questions in Lok Sabha, which may favor some businessmen from outside of the Lok Sabha. Now, who expelled by ethics committee? So we need to see what sort of committees exist in the Lok Sabha. What are the standing committees? What are the ad hoc committees? All right, what is the ethics committee? What is its work? Okay, so Mahua Moitra is basically expelled from the 17th Lok Sabha for unethical conduct and serious misdemeanors. So we'll see in the next lecture what is done here constitutionally and what are the perspectives. So this was for today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed the lecture and learned a lot. I'll be seeing you in the next lecture. Thank you very much. Have a good day.